My grandmother, Helen Hogg, she was always very neat and tidy, did a lot of sewing. Never saw her doing any housework or anything, but someone always did it for her. But she did an awful lot of sewing, made clothes for everybody, didn't go out very, very much. Sometimes we used to go and see some of her old friends. She used to take me along, and I had to sit with my hands in the right position and not talk unless I was spoken to. She had 12 children, 5 girls, I think, and 7 boys. Well, I got on very well with Grandma. I spent quite a lot of time with her. But some of the grandchildren found her very severe. She was very strict about their behaviour.
And Grandfather Hogg, can you tell us something about him?
He was Lewis Hogg. He was always in the garden, digging, growing flowers, and when he wasn't at work. And I spent most of my time with him, helping him, or getting in his way, one or the other. He was an accountant at Adelaide Steamship Company down at Port Adelaide. Florence Hayward, she was my grandmother on my father's side. She used to write a lot of fairy stories, children's stories. She had 9 children, I think, 7 boys and 2 girls. When she left school, she went to Italy for a finishing school, to Florence. And when she wrote stories, she wrote them under the name of Firenze, which is Florence in Italian. A very mixed sort of a person. She wouldn't be called grandmother or Nana or anything like that. We always had to call her Nona. She didn't make much of the children, really. She liked children, but she didn't like to be with them very much, I don't think. Got in her way a bit.
She was more interested with her own pursuits, I guess, then.
Yes. She liked writing books and doing things like that. She didn't do her own housework or anything like that. She was always outside. As a girl, she went down the caves when they were first opened at Margaret River. She was lowered down on a rope when they first opened the cave down there.
What was she doing over here?
She was staying with friends down there.
So she was the adventurous type?
Oh yes, she liked to get about and see all the things that were happening. My grandfather, William Thornborough Hayward, he was a very upright and a surgeon in South Australia, always very busy. We didn't see him a terrible lot. If we were ill, we almost had to get an appointment to see him.
Clearly a very driven man.
Yes, very capable doctor. He used to drive one of the first motor cars in South Australia. He used to drive them backwards and forwards at Norwood, where he had his practice, sitting up straight, very straight in a funny little car.
He qualified to the British medical system at a very early age. He was a doctor on a couple of steamships, and that's how he came to South Australia.
Yeah, he met my grandmother on board. She was on a holiday coming back from Italy. They met on board as he was the doctor on the ship coming out to Australia. When they got to Australia, I think he stayed there. Her father was a chemist, and she was coming back from one of her holidays.
When the war broke out, World War One, he
went back to England to be in the English Army. He was at the Harefield Hospital in England, the military hospital.
So did he spend time on the continent in France as well as back in England, do you know?
But worked in the army hospital in France, I think, during the war. John Hayward and Bernie, I think. They went into the army in England as well. It was always very pleasant but very stern, and it didn't sort of, not the sort of grandfather that you played around with at all. And if we got ill, any of the young ones got ill, by the time we saw grandfather, we were quite all right. Everything had gone. Yes, that's all the sons. And Uncle Roy was over here in Western Australia, so they put the little photo in, which looks as though he's looking through the window. 2 sons were doctors. Lance came over. He lived in Perth afterwards, Uncle Lance. He was a doctor in Perth, lived in Jutland Parade. John Hayward, he came over and he got a farm, and Dad had a farm, of course. Uncle Harold was an accountant. I think they all went to school, were taken to school in the cart. They went to school in Norwood. All the boys went to St Peter's College.
Tell us about your father.
Geoffrey Hayward. He was very friendly with everybody, liked to get round, know everybody and talk to everybody, and was a farmer, Dad and Digger, our little dog, and Dad with his pipe that he always had in his mouth. He was never without it, I don't think. Well, my mother didn't go to church very much, but I did.
And your dad?
No.
Okay, interesting.
He had been when he was young, but he didn't go very much, only for weddings and things.
Your mother?
Dorothy Mildred Hayward. She was one of 12 children from Mitcham in Adelaide. My mother didn't work, of course. I mean, girls didn't work in those days, not ones that had a bit of money. She resented having to come to Western Australia because she had lots of family in South Australia, and she liked to go and see them a lot. And of course we didn't have anybody over here. She was a gardener, first and foremost a gardener. She loved her garden. She grew lovely flowers. She was a judge of the floral work in the local shows, and once went to Perth in the Royal Show. She didn't judge there, but she entered some flowers. I used to garden, but I think it was mostly because I had to. But she taught the children, and she had out in the garden from the time she was able to walk, I think. Might even been before that, when she used to take her around and show her all the flowers.
What was she like as a person?
Oh, she was a little bit retiring. She was quiet and very much a home person.
So she wasn't the adventurous type then?
No, definitely not. She loved knitting. She played croquet for a while.